Good morning. I've got a new hand today, Ace King. Both yesterday's Ace King hand and today's Ace King hand all came from the same session. So this time we're in the big blind and we face a pre-flop raise, and it gets around to us. This player's playing loose. I only have 32 hands on him. However, when we look at his MP stats, he's only played 2 out of 11. He's limped once. He's raised once. Uh, he does loosen up. It appears he's playing a little bit more on the cut, not the cutoff and button. So I would assume that his range is something like this. He does have ace queens plus ace king. It's not really a mistake because it comes back to me and I have a 3-betting range versus mid position, which looks something like this. I do think ace king's in this 3-betting range. We want to raise, and we want to raise to a slightly larger size. If he folds, that's fine. If he calls, we're gonna have a pretty strong range here. We just want to make sure that if he's gonna call with a wider range, we want to punish him to try to make up for the fact that he's going to have position on us. So I did 3-bet. Now, is this 3.5 any indicative of strength? Maybe. I think typically, the stronger bets tend to be bets that are encouraging folds. So maybe like the upper end of this range, maybe even jacks and tens, whereas a smaller maybe 2.5 half big blind bet might be something that's a little bit more speculative. So 7s and 8s, maybe these suited connectors and so forth. But I went ahead and 3-bet and he calls. So that's why I think the queens plus ace king, I assume that he would have just 4-bet with those. I think most players do. Now on this board, the board's a little bit similar as yesterday. We have a 10 high board, 2 diamonds. Instead of having a paired board, though, this is unpaired. Now, again, if I would have just, if it was a bunch of limpers and I ISO raised, I do have to be concerned with this board because limp callers are going to connect with this a lot. However, he open raised and then I 3-bet and he called. Doesn't necessarily mean this board's going to hit him super hard. He could easily have an underpair. He could have an 8s or 7s. He could have jacks or queens. He could have ace queen, king queen type hands. Some of those might fold. Some of them could call. So it's on me. This is a 3-bet pot. I kind of feel like with a 3-bet pot for the blinds, I do have to be aggressive, even though I don't have any backdoor draws, no diamonds. The only backdoor draw I have is a straight, so I need a jack and a queen to hit. I bet half pot. Villain calls. Turn was a 3 of diamonds, much like yesterday's. That's an awful card. I don't have anything, so I don't think I could continue anymore. I do think he could be calling with the queen jack or possibly even king queen. When I checked, I think he probably should be betting those hands. GTO, maybe he's gonna have to check some of those, but I think just exploitatively he should have probably bet any of those draws. I can't call. I don't have any draws myself. I just have 2 overs. Then the ace gets there. And at this point, I probably should have value bet a little bit. Try to go for a little bit of value, maybe half pot, maybe a little less. I think if I bet half pot, maybe jacks will call, maybe queens will call, just to keep me honest, quote unquote. So I was curious how I played. I do think the flop c-bet is probably more exploitative because I think players tend to fold a bit more, but on this board, 10 and a 9, it does hit a lot of callers' ranges. So I fed it in. Let's check this out. So it does say I should be betting 60%, checking 40%. We are betting, sometimes betting. This is probably one where I should have checked. So according to GTO, I should be checking here because I don't really have backdoor hearts. I don't have backdoor diamonds. If I had a king of diamonds or ace of diamonds, it's gonna sway me a bit more. So I'm probably 3-betting here too much, and I knew it. I knew it when I made that c-bet. I thought I don't have any draws. I really should be checking here, but I looked at his fold to c-bet stats. 2 out of 2 when he's out of position, 2 out of 3 when he's in position. I do think he overfolds, so I think any under pair is going to fold. And we don't know how far down he goes. So 8s and 7s, maybe he has, all the way down to 2s. So flop c-bet. I think GTO, I probably need to start learning how to check here. So if I did check and he bets, if he plays, GTO ranges, then yeah, it looks like Ace King's just going to give up. And I think this is a leak that I have, is I tend to bet too much, c-bet too much, and that costs me money, because if I get called, then and I don't have anything else, especially c-betting with a hand like this on this board. So I didn't. So I do have some combinations of Ace King. So I bet half pot, and now Villain's going to call. What is he going to call with? He's calling with all of these hands. Basically weak pairs he's calling. So any pair plus his flush draws, open-ended straight draws, most of his gut shots he's calling as well. He's going to fold some of his king queens. His overcards look like they're part of draws, so I think there's going to be a lot of hands that call here. 3 diamonds hits, and now I should be betting 80%, so we c-bet. Now we should be betting a lot more, and I think we're betting those because all of our diamonds just picked up the flush, and we were betting with a lot of those, even our single diamond. So if we had the king of diamonds or queen of diamonds, like right here, or the queen of diamonds, we're betting those. So we're continuing with that line. With the ace king that we have, we are supposed to check. We don't improve anything, so I do think I made the correct play here. Villain should be betting half the time. And I do think a lot of players do bet. We can change this to say he's only going to bet with if he has a pair. So, like top pair, but, diamonds, 3 diamonds are out there. I think some people kind of get spooked thinking that I'm slow playing. So let's just say he's playing GTO. He checks behind, now the ace, and all right, so on the river we don't value bet, we just go ahead and check all the way. Villain should be betting 20%. He should be betting his some of his top pairs. So ace queens, 1 of the ace jack hands, and 2 pair plus, and then checking everything else for showdown. So what did he actually have? He shows king queen, which he calls on the gut shot. So we bet. Did he have some of that? Yeah, he had. So this is king queen off. King of spades and queen of hearts. So he's really supposed to be folding all of those. The heart acts as a blocker. Hearts acts as a blocker to backdoor heart draw. That eliminates possibility that I would have ace queen, king queen myself. So it makes it more likely that I have something a little bit stronger. Probably is what's going on here. So he was supposed to fold, but he didn't. So I think what we're going to do is modify this. So we bet, and he calls. Say he calls with all of the king queens. Would they raise? I do think players tend to raise trips here. King jack, queen jack. so let's run with that. Let's run the solver, come back when it's done. All right, so we've got it keyed in that he would have raised trips. And I think that's realistic. They're going to raise, try to get it in, try to prevent diamonds from getting there. Now's the time for them to raise. So he calls. Looks like our plan changes a little bit. We don't bet as frequently, so I believe we were supposed to bet 80% of the time. Now we're betting just under 60% of the time. Doesn't really change our ace king. We don't have any diamonds or anything, so we should be checking that. So we check, and then villain should be betting 50%, checking. So he doesn't do that. So let's key listen. So he didn't bet the gut shots. Would he bet the flushes? I would say yes. So what we're going to do is give him the gut shots and open-ended straight draws. I think we got those. All right, and then go back and fix the flushes. So I do think he would have been betting the flushes. Two pair? No, let's say he bets those as well. We don't know how he would respond to those two pair hands, and maybe we actually probably should have bet two pair here, raised with the two pair. Let's actually raise that. Raise with two pair. Now let's run the solver. All right, so we've got it in there. So he's going to raise trips in two pairs, call with a lot of this other stuff. Yeah, we'll leave like ace, queen, ace, jack is folding. I think a lot of players would probably just have folded those. He calls. Now it's on us. What do? We should be still, I'm sure, checking here. Yeah, raise slightly, but we're checking. We don't have backdoors much at all. So I'm fine with the check. And now it is villain's turn. He should be betting. But he checks. So two pair is out. He's going to be checking king queen, except with flushes. So he'll bet flushes. Would he bet the over pairs? Maybe. We could leave that in. He's still going to check his gut shots and so forth. So he checks, and then ace of spades hits. And now it's on us. We check 100%. Okay, so we're still not betting for value. And I'm probably, even in this scenario, villain's going to have hands that misses draws. He's not going to be calling those at all. I think our hope is that we bet and we check and he bets maybe with like ace queen. If he gets there with ace queen, or maybe like king queen just as a bluff. GTO says he should only be betting with his two pair. So that's kind of how he should play. So what do I think? I think overall, when we look at these ranges and the runouts, I think we could make an argument for checking against an unknown GTO player. You'll note here that at this point we're c-betting 100% because he's going to be calling with a much wider range. We're going to get value from king queen, king jack, when he probably should have been folding some of these. And also, if we bet and we get raised, we know we're no good. We know we're no good. So, all right. Hopefully you enjoy this. I learned a little something here. Still don't think my play was 100%, but it can definitely work if we're playing exploitatively against a player that is going to make it obvious that we're beat by raising with trips or two pair and so forth. And if they're willing to call with crappy hands. And that's also one of the reasons why I tend to c-bet quite a bit, because I have been finding that players are starting to call with overcards a bit more. I'm trying to avoid making those calls, but other players do. So they'll call the flop, and then on this 3 they fold. And even if this was, let's say, 3 of spades, they fold at that point. All right, hopefully you enjoy this. If you did, look tomorrow for another.